Good morning. My name is Jennifer Ryon, and on behalf of the Alliance of Women in Workers' Compensation, I want to welcome you to today's webinar. Today is titled, Let's Talk Leading with Intention with AWWC Founding Board Members, will last approximately 1 hour and is a live interactive session being broadcasted today, Thursday, March 10th, 2022. Before we get started, I would like to thank our 2022 corporate sponsors for their support on hosting events such as this. They support us not because they want their logos up on a screen, but they support the cause, which is to affect positive change in the workers' compensation industry through networking, support, mentoring, and collaboration. The Alliance is inclusive of all professionals on workers' compensation, regardless of career stage, with the belief that we can all learn from and support each other. Please be sure to head to the AWWC website for all upcoming virtual events. We are excited to be hosting webinars, collaboration sessions, as well as 7 in-person events throughout 2022. Be sure to check back on our website for registration details. If you cannot make one of our live, virtual, or in-person events, don't worry. Webinars and our 4 main events will be recorded and on demand for our followers. Our theme this year is Acknowledge, Adjust, Advance. Each quarter, our webinars and events will be centered around each mini theme. This quarter, we focus our topics around leading with intention. Be sure to join in these discussions as we facilitate both virtual and in-person events. I'm also excited to share with you today that we launched our AWWC Book Club this week. Love reading books? Be sure to head to the AWWC website to sign up to join the club. Interested in becoming an ambassador for the Alliance? More information on the application process will be up on our website in the next few weeks, as well as we'll be sending out social media content and an email blast for more information. Change is preceded by trust. It is through acceptance and inclusion that trust will be formed and positive impact will occur. The Alliance is committed to creating a safe space in the workers' compensation industry for women of diverse backgrounds and experiences through a shared culture that integrates various perspectives. This is who we are and who we will be. The time to do better and be better is now. The Alliance understands that diversity is a journey that will take time to make meaningful changes for our organization, its followers, and supporters. We will be intentional in making progress along our key pillars of change. The Alliance is excited to bring together some of our 4 founding board members to share their career journeys as they think through how they have led by intention. What does it mean to lead by intention? Hear stories on how this positively impacted their success, lessons learned throughout their career, and insight into how our followers can continue to gain tips on focusing in on the intention of leadership. Today's panelists include Artemis Emslie, CEO of CadenceRx, Nina Smith, President, Customer and Market Operations of Enlyte, Lisa Hannusch of the Hannusch Group, and Maggie Alvarez-Miller at Claims at Insurance Company of the West. Thank you for the time you're spending with us today, and we hope you enjoy this webinar. Wow, well, good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining. I'm seeing a lot of chat already in the chat feature, so like my intro said, feel free to continue to ask questions or comments during this session. This is hopefully going to be an amazing conversation. We have some good questions to ask these key folks here on the panel. So just to get started, I'm honored to be moderating this panel of accomplished women in our space. Throughout the years, each of these women have had a huge impact on my own career journey. So I'm excited to jump right into it. So let's get started with introductions. To begin, I'm Jennifer Ryon. I am the AWWC Board Vice President. I've been in the work comp industry for over 16 years and have been on the honor of being on this board of the Alliance since 2019.
Right, you got it. Good morning, everybody. My name is Artemis Emslie, and I have been in the workers' compensation industry for about 30 years. My current role is CEO of CadenceRx, and I am the founder of the Alliance in Women in Workers' Compensation. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Nina Smith, and I've been in the industry for about 13 years. I am with Enlyte, formerly Mitchell Gen X Coventry, and I am leading a new organization in Enlyte, which is our customer and market operations. Basically, it's everything customer facing. And I'm really delighted to be here with all of you this morning.
Good morning, I'm Lisa Hannusch. I currently serve on the board of directors in the Crawford Company and on several other private company boards. I have spent, it's approaching 40 years, not quite, but when you start looking at those decades in workers' comp from all different facets. So from a healthcare provider, a regulator, insurance company, technology, and entrepreneur.
Morning, everybody. I'm Maggie Alvarez-Miller. I am a manager at ICW Group overseeing cost management medical programs. Been in the industry now for about, 27, 30 years. I always think about it in terms of how old my kids were when I first started this industry, and now they're grown people. Artemis and I, a couple years ago, decided that we would have an opportunity to really create a group of leaders within Alliance and with women to share our industry knowledge and to also support each other as we grow in our careers. So my participation in the board has been creating it and working with all these wonderful women and supporting all of you who are participating here.
Awesome. Well, I'm just going to get jumped right into it with further ado. So my first question, I'm going to start off with Artemis. Artemis, you started the Alliance, you thought of this. So my first question is, what does leading with intention mean to you?
Thank you, Jennifer. I think that's a really important question. It's a broad question in a sense. So leading with intention to me is leading an organization or a company, staying focused on the goals of the company, purpose, and communicating it. And so when I think about leading with intentions, a couple of things that I believe in that is important, and that is that there is, in today's world, there's a ton of distractions. And when I say distractions, we have COVID, we have work from home, remote, the great resignation, all these, the economy and everything that's going on. And so when you're leading with intention, it's really important to stay focused on what your goals are and the direction of that, and not letting external factors, even as they are important to consider, but not letting them become a distraction. So control what you can control. We obviously can't control COVID, for example. We know it's out there, but we can't manage around that. So you have to control what you can control and stay focused, and then really being focused on being present in the moments, whatever that moment is, and leading with that. With leading with intention, it's a lot about people. It's a lot about how you do things versus the why that you do it. And so those, for me, keep me guided in my journey in leadership. And I think it's really, really important. I'll add also this is one of the top questions that I get in starting a business. And it doesn't matter if I get it from people, potential clients or people I've worked with, but they'll ask you what your end goal is. And an end goal when you're starting a business, a lot of people just think it's about the dollars. And when you're leading with intentions, it's not about the money. It's not about an exit and I'm going to, want to make a bunch of money. It's really about the company purpose and the direction that you're going in. And so when I get asked that question, I have, the company has a grand purpose that we are driving to, and, and we stay focused on that. And if the company is successful, we will elevate the industry, and number two, that people are better off, after Cadence is gone or whatever that journey looks like. So again, staying present in the moment, understanding what you can control and not control is really important in leading with intention.
I love that. I think we all have to remember that we can only control what we can control, because when you think about everything going on, it can kind of get overwhelming, and to stay very intentional in that space, you have to keep reminding yourself for that. So thank you, Artemis. I'm going to jump over to Nina. Nina, you are a superior executive leader in the market, highly regarded. I wanted to know for you, leading with intent, or describe your leadership style and how you lead others. Most importantly too, is it different from your male counterparts? Have you found it different as you've been leading?
Great, thanks. So let me just start with kind of my leadership style. I think those of you that have worked with me know that I really am all about listening. And I think listening is so important. And so I have this statement that I tell myself and I tell others often, which is speak once and listen twice. You know, like we have 2 ears, let's really do that. I find that leaders actually feel like they have to be the first to speak. They have to, and I'm all about collaborating. And it's really, you know, we versus me. I think you know that. And when you listen and if you actually engage an organization, it's amazing what you'll learn. And oftentimes, you know, we have the answer, but we don't really, you know, we want to go into the room and say, here's the answer. And for me, I'm always trying to bring others in. I want them to be heard. I want to make sure that they have a voice. You know, oftentimes leadership thinks that because I have a title, I have all the answers. I am very, very intentional about bringing others in, listening to their ideas, facilitating us to an answer that makes a difference for the business. I actually agree with Artemis. It is about what we're doing. It is not about how much money we make. It is, for me, it is about making a difference. And, you know, when I really think about it, you know, it's about we versus me. That is how I lead. And so it's just really, really important to me to listen. And how does that then differ from our male counterparts? I think this is, again, my perception only, but I think a lot of men lead with ego, right? So I have this title, I lead with ego, you know, and I'm going to tell you what I want. And I'm not saying that's an all or nothing, but it's rare that you see men leading with collaboration, bringing others in. You know, I certainly haven't seen that a lot in my career. I mean, just being in the tech space, I'm generally it around the table for a very, very long time. And the last thing I'll say about the difference of men versus women, again, my view only, is that as I've grown my career, I've just noticed that men actually stick together more than women. You know, that's been an interesting thing for me in technology for sure, particularly growing my career. And I will tell you that now there's just so much more collaboration with women because there's more of us, right? So there wasn't a lot of us in the past. And so, you know, you kind of had to follow what they were doing, if you will. But the men actually, I found, stuck together more and certainly lead with ego.
Yeah, no, that's great. And I appreciate you saying that a leader doesn't have to have all the answers. And especially for those that are coming up through leadership, knowing that it's okay and to listen. And I will also agree on, if I could tell my younger self anything, it is to bring in a strong base of women around me, because the moment that I was able to be vulnerable and bring in individuals like y'all on this panel, it has catapulted my growth, my understanding, and the strength that we can do together. You can do so much more together than alone, and you don't feel like on an island. And so thank you for you know, bringing that to light, because I 100% agree. All right, so leading intention can be a challenge for today's leaders. I'm going to ask Lisa, why do you believe intention is critical to leading today?
Well, first of all, I don't think it's a challenge today any more than it has been in my entire career. You have to have focus. You know, without intention, you are, as a friend of mine said, rudderless. And I was listening to a presentation at UT this week in their DEI Council celebrating Title IX and women in sports. And one of the first women members of the UT rowing team talked about what it meant to be on that first women's team for UT, the last women's sport that was added for UT under Title IX. And as a rower, you're in a boat, tiny little skinny boat of 8 people, and you only have one oar. And if you think you can do it all by yourself, you're going to go in circles. And so that intention is, how do you put your oar in the water in sync with others? How do you keep moving forward? How do you make sure that you're talking and communicating with each other of what that intention is? Because otherwise you're either going to tip over or go in circles. And that is, just a great analogy for what happens in business. You can tip over and not succeed in whatever the goals you're trying to accomplish, or you're going to just run around in circles and to your clients, to your employees, to your peers, to the colleagues in the industry, you're not going to have that intention of why are you there? What is your purpose? What do we do?
No, that analogy spot on. So thank you. Maggie, what do you think? Why do you believe intentional is critical to leading today?
Well, especially now, and probably, like Lisa said, we've been dealing with this for a very long time. Our teams, and I'll think about it from a team's perspective, is comprised of multi-generational, multicultural people, and they all have different needs and different wants, which we may have not seen in prior times, right? So when you lead with intention, you're leading by sharing and by demonstrating the value and where they sit within the overall process, program, goal, intention, product development, whatever it is. When you lead by intention that way, it's much more important from a deliverable perspective, and you create ownership. So it's a little bit harder. It takes more time, but it does drive the value output of what you're looking to accomplish. And I think that's where we as leaders really need to be cognizant of that. One of the things I've done in my career when I first left the provider side of the industry and came on the payer side was I wanted to learn about the industry. No one took the time to show me, so what's the value of you doing what you're doing? That stuck with me through my career. So my approach has always been teach, demonstrate, show people where they fit in the puzzle, especially on the clinical management side, the nurses. I think if we as an industry took the time to really demonstrate to them what their value was and what it means when you look at overall claim management and bottom line impact, that would drive a lot more, I think, understanding and ownership of the entire industry. But we don't do that consistently enough, I don't think. So,
Meg, I think that's a really great point. And one of the things that I know the Alliance has done is we've had several seminars on business acumen and growth in somebody's career. You come out of school and you learn your job really well and you do well, and then you get a promotion and then you learn the business, and then to really step it up to the next level is understanding, to your point, understanding the pieces of not just your business and how that all fits in the direction of the company, but really where is an industry going as a whole. And it's so important, an aspect of leading with intention is understanding all those components and how they fit together. I think that's really
and your teams take it to the next level, right? And I know we'll talk about this later, but at the end of the day, when you lead through intention, you're growing the people who are going to take over your roles when you leave, right? You're bringing them and giving them the information so that they can take it to the next level. And with all the things that are changing in our world, with technology, with diversity, we need to be able to establish that foundation so that others can take it forward.
This goes right into nicely for my next question for Nina. How do you pass on the impactful lessons you've learned throughout your leadership journey?
Well, first off, I'm a huge, I just love everything around supporter of mentoring. So, I believe in mentoring, and that's the very first way that you give back, and just, reaching back. And I'll tell you, one of the things I've done, it kind of goes into what Maggie said here, is that as we've had new, younger people coming into the company and into the industry, I've really reached out to them. I really embraced them. I want to learn from them, right? And then I want to share, my experiences as I've grown my career as well. So, I'm mentoring, I'm coaching, and I'm sponsoring. I have this big, you guys have all heard me say this, many of you, that sponsoring is so important, particularly sponsoring women. You know, like we have a lot of young women coming into the business, and I want to know what makes them tick. And I want to help them to navigate through my experiences, right? So here's how I've experienced it. So I do a lot of mentoring inside the company, outside the company. And when I talk about sponsoring, it's like, okay, you know, Jen's in the business. I want to make sure people know all the great work that she's doing. And she doesn't have to know that, but I'm going to sponsor her and help to make sure that I build the awareness of her in the business. And look, I love coaching. And I'll tell you guys that I'm still doing all of that for myself. So as I'm learning, like I have a coach, I've always had a coach. You know, I have mentors that I've had for over 25 years, and I still pick up the phone and ask the questions like, you know, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? And so when I really think about, you know, this whole thing of mentoring and giving back, that's how we give back. You know, we are in an industry that many of us are starting to age out. And so how do we make sure that we actually leave something in this industry? And I think it's digging deep. I think it's really, really embracing the young women. And look, we've got some superstars in the company right now. And I'll tell you, if we don't engage them, if we don't give them the visibility, if we don't give them the exciting projects, they're gone. And so I really believe that you have to take this serious. And for me, it's all about giving back, because look at the experiences. I'm in my 40-something year of working, and I've got a ton of experiences that I can share with others. So if I could share that, maybe I could help someone else as they're navigating their career.
So this isn't a question that I had, but I'm curious. Do you feel like this is a new change that all of a sudden, is it because we're talking about it more, or has this always been where you have found mentors easily talking about this topic? Or is this new? Like for me, I feel like this is, in the last couple of years, there's more visibility around embracing mentorship, helping others grow up through their own journeys. So I'd love to know anyone's perspective of that. Is it always been like this, or is it just me feeling that I'm hearing it more now?
I think there's a difference. Yeah, go ahead, Artemis.
Go ahead, you guys go.
Yeah. You know, I think it is one of the things that Nina said earlier about there are more women in the industry, or actually more women in the workplace. You know, outside of our Rosie the Riveter days, where the women were the dominant force of the workplace until the men came home from war, you know, we now have a bigger voice. So I think that you see more. When we were not the majority, I think there was a sense of competition, and that there were very few places for women. And so we weren't as supportive to others. And I mean, this is speaking from my 40+ career in the workplace in general. That's where I see that shifting happening. I believe that there's always been supporters and mentors and sponsors, but not to the same degree. I really see that it is especially women helping women, and our men allies really supporting women in the workplace differently than they did 30 years ago.
I agree with Lisa. I really do. I think when we first started in this industry, there was not a lot of women per se in positions of even leadership. So there were a lot less opportunities, a lot less roles to really go after. Now, as we continue to grow as women in the industry, I'm seeing much more openness to be able to share and to mentor and to teach what we've learned in our careers. I completely agree with Nina on the whole younger groups. We have a generational gap in our industry, right? And the young ladies who are coming here want to be challenged. They want to understand. They want to do. We have a question on work-life balance. They need to know that they bring value. And if they don't bring value, no amount of money is going to give them that sense of accomplishment. One of my stepsons just recently had a great career, making over 6 figures, didn't find value. He didn't find the need for that. He didn't have that passion for the job. Left that job, went to go be a manager for a Major League Baseball team as an intern, because that's what he loved, right? Our young ladies want that. They want to feel that connection, and we need to figure out how to give it to them. Because if we don't, we're going to have a challenge, as we are all seeing now as leaders trying to recruit into our industry.
Yeah, I agree. The only thing I would add to that is I think what's come alongside of mentoring is the vulnerability and being able to open. You know, sometimes always mentoring is a two-way street, and as somebody that needs mentoring, it can be informal or formal, but you have to be comfortable with just being vulnerable and saying, hey, I have this problem. What can how do I network and how do I figure it out? And because there's so much focus on the mentoring and there's so much focus in the world today on just vulnerability and emotional intelligence, I think that has helped enhance, what you're seeing, Jen, is that it's a bigger topic today. It's always been there, but it's a bigger topic that's gotten labels.
Mm-hmm.
No, I appreciate you guys, helping me round out that, because I've been sitting at that for a while of like, is it me or is it we just evolved? We've been able to open this up, and I think it does come one from the vulnerabilities, emotional intelligence, and then the maturity of knowing where you are in your own career, and it's okay to ask. Earlier on in your career, you think that you have to know everything and you have to have this stoic approach, and that's not reality, right? And so if I can tell anyone that is attending this that is earlier on in their career, is embrace your vulnerability and ask questions, because you can get so much more farther ahead when you do that, rather than thinking that you have to know all the answers. So love this. I'm gonna switch over to Lisa and ask, has there been a time in your career that you lost sight of being an intentional leader? And if so, what lessons have you learned from that experience?
I think it's interesting when we talk about the differences between women and men in the workplace. One of the things that I see is that women traditionally are nurturers. We're people pleasers. We want to succeed in everything that we do in a bigger driving force. And I think part of it is that vulnerability. We are afraid to make a mistake. We're afraid to do things. And I would say that one of the biggest lessons learned that I had is don't try to please everyone. And I call it the shiny penny syndrome. When Unimed started being successful and we were getting more clients and getting more recognition, one of the things that I saw is that clients would say, can you do this? What about this? And we would chase what I call the shiny penny. And it's like, yeah, of course we can do that. We can build that. We can do this. We can offer this service. And you lose the focus of what your core competency is. And it was actually a great thing that happened for me in my career, and for me in mentoring the next generation or the next set of entrepreneurs, in seeing that what happens when you fail. So we all remember the 2008 financial crisis, and workers' comp caught up to that financial crisis in 2010, somewhat 2011, because that's when the injuries caught up with not having the same number of people in the workplace. Well, we were chasing the shiny penny. We had deeper pockets. We were being successful, and all of a sudden you don't. The claims were down, your revenue is down, your employee count is down. And you have to realize that you need intention, and you can't chase the shiny penny and operate as if you had really a shallow pocket. And what is that? Because you get sloppy when you have deep pockets. You lose the side of entrepreneurialism when you have deep pockets. It's okay to make more investments, more risk. We don't want to lose sight of that, but you have to make those investments, take those risks with the thought that, where's your focus? Where is that intent? Make sure that you stay within the core.
Love that. So I'm going to jump. There's a great question in the chat. So I'm going to ask it to the group, and so we'll figure out who wants to answer. As a leader, how do you prepare and plan strategically for how our industry is growing and what the future looks like? Who wants to take it? Artemis?
Yep, I can take it. I think it's a great question, and I think first the way to prepare is being aware of what is going on in the industry and some of the friction points that are happening. There's one thing that's consistent, and that is change. And as things change, understanding what those changes are in the industry and how you'll adapt to it is really important to what direction you're steering the ship in. So one of the things that was discussed earlier was, Nina brought up listening and understanding what's going on. Lisa brought up just to be able to pivot when you need to pivot, and having understanding of what's going on around the space. So I think, when somebody asks about how do you prepare and how are you succeeding in a time of change, know that change is consistent, and understanding what that change is and what it means to your business is really important. And then just focusing on what you can control and not focus on what you can't control allows you to stay focused, and then communicating that out, and then having either a board or a group of people that have very diverse thought processes to challenge that. One of the things that happens in a time of change or that you're planning is that as a leader, you may think you have to go one direction. And if you have a very diverse group around you and your leadership around you, their obligation is to challenge that thought process and to listen to that and then be able to make decisions. That's really important, to be able to adjust a business as you're navigating times of change.
I'll just build on that, Artemis, and just share that I think we have to also have an outward-in view of the world. I think sometimes we get in our companies and we get very, very insular. And, it's all about what's going on in the market. It's all about staying close to our customers, right? Like, what do they want? What are they going through? We're going through tremendous change, not only in our industry, but in the world. And I worry, I know it's one of the things I push for in our company, which is, hey guys, let's not worry about inside. Let's see how we're going to react to what's going on externally. And how do we then strategize and plan for that? Because oftentimes you'll just see it. It's like companies just go heads down. And so I really think it's important to stay focused on what's going on outside of your company walls.
The only thing I would add, Jen, is, to Artemis's point, there is so much that's happening in our industry right now, even as we're speaking. And depending on what side of the table you sit on, you need to be cognizant of recognizing that you can't do it all, and you need to bring a team with you. You need experts, right? Excuse me. You need experts who will bring you the information that you can decide and make recommendations on, and make them with a level of intelligence that's going to be impactful and meaningful to your organization. So really recognizing that you need to bring the people in and bring the experts who will guide you and help you understand all the moving parts, whether it's customer interfacing, technology, service providers, staffing, diversity and inclusion. All of that needs to be brought in so that you all can make a decision together. It's a big, big thing we need to consider as we go forward.
Yeah. And Jen, I'm just gonna share as Maggie and as listening to this conversation, I couldn't help but think about when the alliance was formed, right? So when the alliance was formed, it wasn't one person. The alliance is hugely successful today because of the team of individuals that were diverse in their thought process. And that started with a phone call to 20 different leaders in the space and said, what do you think about giving back to the industry? What do you think about an industry that doesn't really have any formal leadership organizations or teaches leadership or mentoring? And so how about we bring together a diverse group of individuals that just can think about how we impact an industry? And it's not one person, and it actually wasn't even one organization. It was two organizations that came together that made a greater good. And I think it's things like that or stories like that Alliance was led or with intention. We stayed focused on our charter and what we tried to accomplish, and we did it with a very diverse group of people, and we continue to stay focused on diversity and inclusion and having the impact in the space that we feel has been really important to each one of our career and our successes. It's about giving back. Somebody said it earlier. I love it.
Yeah, the journey is amazing. So when you think of a journey, let's start back to the beginning. And Lisa, when you began your career, did you ever imagine you would have a leadership role in this profession? First, I'll ask that piece first. Did you ever think, wow, like looking back at where you came and where you started, did you ever see this? Was this your goal? Did you wake up when you were young and you're like, I'm going to be this amazing leader? Or how did that begin?
Well, that's kind of a multi-part question when you think about that, because when you talk about being a leader in this industry or in my career, and then waking up and saying, am I a leader? I would say the most fascinating part about going from climbing the corporate ladder to being an entrepreneur is that, did I wake up thinking that I would own a company? No, never did. I really didn't see the leaders or mentors in my life, in my circle, that said that women could do that. I thought that women could climb the corporate ladder and be managers, be leaders, probably not even be a president or CEO. That was kind of what I woke up. But as far as me as a person, I like to, break the bias that we all need to do. And I woke up and said, yeah, of course, we can do things that we put our mind to it. And I think there's a little bit, I go back to thinking as a kid, when you're playing on the playground, being a leader is not the one that takes charge and bosses people around. That's not the definition of a leader. A leader is building coalitions of people that are interested in following whatever that intention is. So you look at, do you have that executive presence? Do you have that type of confidence where you can get people to follow you? And I think I did have that. I woke up having that. So I think there is something that's in there. And how do we teach others how to have that package? And the most important, how do we make sure that people realize you can do things? You can be CEO, president, you can be a business owner, and do not let your gender or any of your other factors of diversity set you back. You have to have that confidence and pushing that forward.
Can I build on that? Lisa, just like one of my big words around leadership is fellowship, right? So I think great leaders have people that follow them. So if you go from company to company, people want to come and work for you, work with you. And I think that fellowship is so critical.
Mm-hmm.
So do you think that's a natural ability, or is this a honed in skill? And the reason why I'm asking this is for our followers and our attendees, of if they're not in a leadership, to kind of guide them. So natural, or can it be learned? Or is it both?
Yes and yes.
Yeah, I would say that as well.
Well, first of all, you never stop learning. So even if you have some innate skill, the most important skill, I believe, is curiosity and your desire to continue to learn. Curiosity and desire. So if you think you have it, then you don't. You have to continue to learn. And we have to, as Maggie was talking earlier about education, we have to be the ones helping teach if someone doesn't believe they have it. Because I do believe everyone has that inside of them if they have curiosity and desire.
And I think a good leader recognizes that maybe even before the person themselves recognize it, right? And we need to seek that out for them and to make sure that they're aware. Self-awareness is a big part of that, right? Being self-aware of who you are, how you present, and recognizing how people perceive you is important also. But I agree. I agree with Lisa and Nina, is that being able to demonstrate the ability to go forward and the curiosity and the ambition to want to do something different is so important. People just don't know they have it until someone tells them, hey, you've got this, do it.
Yeah, giving people that confidence, and letting them know that their ceiling, they can bust through it. Because I think a lot of us, sometimes we limit our own selves in our own head, and we just need someone to be that voice for us when we don't have our own voice, to find And that totally, again, catapults your career and your growth as an individual is surrounding yourself with those people. So I want to ask Artemis, because obviously, starting Cadence, what was the most important risk as a leader you took and why? Broad question, I know.
Broad question, right? Two parts. Literally walking away from a company that helped build and was highly successful. Walking away from the people was really, really hard. And then stepping back into the space and starting a business when there were plenty of people that said, why are you starting a PBM? Who needs another PBM? There was a ton of doubt that that people would, and not intentionally to hurt, but just to kind of question. And if you listen to that and you let that rule your thought process, it can debilitate you. So I think the biggest risk that I took was starting the business. And then how did I overcome that was really staying focused on why the business was being started, what the differentiators we were bringing to the market, how we were going to be successful, how we were going to drive that. And then literally just every day, just getting up and being intentional of consistently and driving towards a goal. Didn't make that experience as risky as others would lend you to believe. So even though it is risky to put it all on the line and invest everything that you have into a business and move it forward, it feels a lot riskier than it really ended up being. So enjoying the journey, going along day by day and not worrying about again, I said it earlier, worrying about what you can control and not worrying about what you can't control is so important when you talk about risk aversion in people.
I'm going to switch gears just a little bit because we all are, Maggie, you mentioned this a little bit earlier about work-life balance. How do we have a personal life and a work and still be successful? So I'm going to direct this question to Lisa first. What does work-life balance mean to you?
I love that question because I hate it. The whole moniker of work and life is just a distraction to me, because there is work and life and there is life and work. So I really wish that we came up with a new name. I understand the intent of what work-life balance means, but it really means to me that you have balance of the things that you need in everything that you do. So is that financial? Is that spiritual? Is that educational? What are those things? You have to find what are your needs, and then where do you fulfill those needs? So if you need interaction, a lot of emotional interaction, and that's an incredibly important pillar, do you find that emotional aspect in your career, in your home life, in your hobbies? Where do you find that? And are you getting fulfilled? And you have to make sure that of all the things that you need, where are you getting fulfilled? And to me, that's what balance is. So it's not, I check out the door from my career and I turn my cell phone off at night. That's not what balance is. Balance is understanding yourself and making sure you know where to get fulfillment. And that can come in so many different places, in both your family life, your hobbies, your church life, your career. And we spend a lot of time in our career. We do. And especially the more that you climb that ladder, the more hours that you spend. And sometimes it's not just the quantity of hours as it is the intensity of the time that you're spending. So where do you get that balance? You need to have balance in those things that you spend a lot of time in, like your career. Well, make sure that you're getting fulfilled of all different facets of your life and your needs in the time that you spend in all the different ways.
Yeah, Maggie, what do you think? What Lisa said and your thoughts?
I think what Lisa said is perfect. I'm gonna rehear that over and over again, because she's absolutely correct. We spend so much time in our careers. What does that mean in terms of balance? And for me personally, my balance comes from being able to now at this point in my life to give back, right? And a lot of that giving back is through my knowledge and my experience in my career. Serving on boards, understanding the cultural impacts of workers' comp on Latin American people. That is somehow a little bit of work, but at the same time, that gives me balance, because to me, if it gives me a sense of fulfillment. So find that balance. And I would suggest to all of the folks who are on the call, listen to what Lisa just said, because balance doesn't mean you turn your phone off and you go do whatever else. Balance means is find what makes you fulfilled and find what gives you a sense of well-being. That's work-life balance. Nicely put, Lisa.
I love that.
And I think there's another part of the balance that we have to have in our lives when we look at, what happens when we started working from home, where everybody worked from home, and we have our kids that we are having to teach while we're having to do a Zoom meeting. We have our phone calls that we have to take, and people are starting to go back to the office. And that, I think we had an interesting new kind of balance, that we had to balance the things in that work from home. Just like when you're at the office and you have a call from your kid's school, or you need to talk to your doctor, you're not going to wait until after your work hours. You have to do some of those things during the time that your office is open. In the same way, you might have to do things in answering a client or talking to an employee after you left the office. So when we had that, you show up at an office and you leave the office, it was kind of an interesting wall. You shut a door and you're opening a different door. When you are in work from home or working remotely, and even as you're going back to the office more behind that door, don't forget that there's still balance that happens. There's balance of things that you get fulfilled during the workday and once you leave that office environment.
Artemis, is there anything you do in your personal time that helps you be a better leader in your career?
For me personally, what helps me be a better leader is to find space where I can just shut down or turn off. I get energy from people, and I get energy internally. And so from a personal time, I enjoy going for a run. Now, mindfulness is really important. And for me, mindfulness is going for a run or going for a hike in the woods, but it's usually in solitude for me. That's because I need that. We talked about balance and getting energy. I do get a lot of energy from being around people and connection, but I also build my energy through just being solo. And I think that's why I enjoy running. I think that's why I enjoy walking, because it gives me that. And if I know this about myself, if I get anxious or in work, or if I'm trying to solve something, it's really helpful for me that I just go for a walk. It's really helpful for me that I go for a run, and I'm releasing energy and I'm thinking about things. And believe me, I solve all the world's problems on my runs and forget it when and then forget what I solved after I get done with my running. But it is my release that works for me. That kind of combination of exercise, mindfulness, and just solitude.
Yeah,
Can I build on that? I am such a believer in me time. Like, I need that time. And if I don't get it, I'm just not even good for myself. I'm an avid reader. I love to garden, and I actually love some me time. So if I'm not getting it, I need to be able to think. And I think a lot of leaders, a lot of people are just running. And so, Artemis, I totally agree with you. Like, if I don't get my me time, I'm not going to be good. And it starts with me taking care of me. And it's okay. We have to do that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I love that we're all saying it's okay, because again, it's as the stereotype, or maybe it's just my own thought process at the beginning was, no, you have to just drive and you have to, not have this balance. But when you actually realize that you have to figure out what ignites you, what gives you that energy, what fulfills you, and then lean into that. And it's okay. And you need to do that to be more productive and to be able to be better for the people around you. And if you don't, you're going to struggle, or you're going to get so burnt out that it's not going to be fun for you anymore. You're going to lose that passion. So I know we're getting close to the hour. I'm going to ask Nina, how do you continue to grow and develop as a leader?
As a leader?
How do you grow and develop as a leader? How do you?
Well, first off, I just said it. I am an avid reader. So I read everything and I just love it actually. So I learn from that. And I talked about coaching, like coaching is really important. So, many of you know, I took on this new role, and it's a new role, at the company. And I just spend a lot of time, talking to my coach. And I think it's about, someone said it earlier, it's about having that trust. You have to have trust in another person where you can be totally vulnerable. And you've got to be able to look yourself in the mirror and say, yeah, this is something I need to work on. And so I am constantly working on that. I'm learning from others. I'm talking to others. And I just think that's how you continue to grow in your career. And you have to have self-awareness. If you don't have self-awareness, if you're just fooling yourself, right? And so I think you have to start there as well. And it's about being vulnerable. It's about being open. It's about looking in the mirror and saying, yeah, this is who I am. And there's no such thing as perfection. And just continuing to grow.
I love that. And I think one of the greatest gifts for me, just to tag on to that, is feedback. Feedback is a gift, and it doesn't matter who the feedback's coming from. It could be coming from a peer, it could be coming from one of my board members, it could be coming from just somebody in the industry. If somebody can be really thoughtful in the way that they're giving feedback, it is, as hard as feedback can be sometimes, it is an absolute gift. And I think that helps us all grow as well.
I agree that feedback is so important. We need to have intention on seeking it out, relish in it, enjoy it, and making sure that we're good at giving and receiving and asking for feedback to continually grow and improve.
Yeah, no, this is, I just want to continue to talk to you guys. Can we add another hour? Because I'm just loving it. I'm soaking it in. But we're wrapping up. I have one last question I'm going to ask each of you. Leadership is about intentional influence. What advice would you give the next generation of female leaders? Artemis, I'll start with you.
Okay, very good. So there's a couple of things. One is I would tell you, don't try to be perfect. Don't try to solve everything at once. Enjoy the journey. We learn it as we go. And if you try to figure everything out before you move forward, you're missing the best part. So enjoy the journey. Don't try to be perfect, and learn as you go.
Maggie?
Share your knowledge freely and be a great teacher. It's the best I can tell you all. If you're going to be a great leader, do that, and you'll learn too. As Nina indicated, we're never told to learn. But just share your knowledge freely. People will follow you. They will appreciate it, and you'll learn from it too.
So great. Lisa?
This year is the 50th anniversary of Title IX. And if you don't know what Title IX is, Google that. In looking at what we've accomplished in 50 years of trying to obtain equality, and equality under Title IX is something that was mandated by law, but it's still not there. And what do we do with our journey of diversity to make sure that we're valuing differences and we're creating an environment where people feel welcome and belong? And it goes beyond just women, but women in all aspects of diversity. What can we do to make sure that we're not talking about not having equality in the next 50 years?
Nina, we'll wrap it up with you.
Have passion for everything that you do. I think it's so critical to have passion, because if you don't, your heart would not be in it. Another thing is I always try to probably lead a little bit more with EQ, but certainly you have to balance it with IQ. And I think sometimes we forget the EQ part, and it's so critical. And the other thing that I would say to each and every one of you is please reach back, right? Each one reach one, and do everything that you can to pull many people along, but it starts with one person at a time.
Wow, well, I can take so much away from this. You guys, it has been such an honor to have you on this panel today. Thank you for your time. Thank you to everybody that has joined. This webinar will be on demand probably tomorrow. So feel free to share it. And if you have any other questions, please reach out to us. We'll be happy to answer. Thank you, ladies, and have a good rest
Thank
of
you
the
all.
day.
Have a
Great
great afternoon.
seeing everyone.
Bye, everybody.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.